Good morning. This is the narrated version of the slides I presented to the seated sections of 215 this week. First thing that we did was talk about the difference between the statements listed below. There is pain and I am in pain, or there are thoughts and I am thinking. And then we did an exercise where we listed out as many differences as we could think of between waking life and dreaming. So that's just something to think about. For this week, you have 3 things to read. The link here actually in the slide I will have to fix because there I swapped something out that was a little more accessible, but that's in your curriculum and materials page on Canvas. All right, first essay is by Todd Long, Epistemic Justification. And there is a note at the end of the essay that says that epistemic here is referring to knowledge. And he tells the story of 3 friends you have over to your house. And they all believe that you have almond milk in your fridge. They have different reasons for believing that. But only Anne has epistemic justification because she actually laid eyes on it, held it, smelled it, and put it back in the fridge. I love this definition of knowledge here. True belief plus an account of the reason why. So Anne, well, all of our friends, had reasons why they believed what they believed, but only Anne had knowledge, we could say, because she actually had a good reason for why she thought that there was almond milk in the fridge. Josh was just guessing. Rose just wanted it to be there. I told my seated sections that I don't care if you know the names of these different theories. I just really need you to know that there are different theories. And I need you to know that epistemic justification, so justification for our knowledge, provides people with a good reason to believe that something is true, and in some sense makes it more likely to be true. So Anne, our friend who looked at the almond milk, smelled it, held the container in her hand, put it back in the fridge, in a sense we could say that her reasons make it more likely to be true that there actually is almond milk in our fridge. Here are some sources that we use to justify knowledge. This is just pointing out that justification is relative to different people and it is relative to ourselves at different times in our life. So clearly we know more than we used to know, and hopefully we will know even more in the future. But if you have some sort of expertise that I don't have, then your justification is going to be stronger than mine is. If you want to take the time to measure the lines in between the I don't know, the ends of these shapes, you can. I will just tell you that they are the same length, but our senses tell them that the one on top is longer. And one thing to keep in mind is the idea of fallibilism, and this is that we can have justification in a belief that unbeknownst to us is false. And this runs counter to what Descartes will say, but based on a lot of our perceptions, we base our beliefs, and those are often wrong, but we can justify those beliefs even though a lot of them may be wrong. That's the idea behind fallibilism. And Todd asks the question, how much justification do we need to call it knowledge? Going on to Descartes, he thought that we needed a lot. in order to consider something knowledge. And if you look at the crash course video, Hank explains his experiment here where he wanted to throw out all his beliefs and see which ones he could count as knowledge. And he only came up with one, and then after that, that was a springboard to having justification for other beliefs. So he realized that he had many false beliefs, and so, like I said, the strategy was to doubt or to not believe any claim that was false or could be false. And one thing to think about is that our senses, information from our senses, is often wrong. So if you've ever thought you saw a friend and then it turns out that's actually not your friend, it could be awkward if you've already called out to that person. Hey, Linda! It's not Linda. When that person turns around, a little awkward. Or, take anything in terms of our senses and what feels like it reflects reality. Oftentimes it doesn't. And so we're often wrong about what the external world is like. He goes to this thought experiment that maybe all his thoughts are being implanted in his mind by an evil demon. He can't prove that the evil demon does not exist. So all his beliefs about the outside world could be caused by the demon. Skepticism is the idea that we lack knowledge or justified belief. We lack certainty. What we believe might be false, so we know that beliefs are not the same as knowledge. But he does come to the conclusion that there's one thing that he can be sure of, and that is that he exists. So he says, I am thinking I exist, and this, he says, defeats the evil demon test. So even if all the beliefs and the types of beliefs that he has in his brain could be false, there is someone who is doubting his beliefs, and that is him, and so he must exist in order to be deceived. The implication here is that thought requires a thinker, and this is known with certainty, because even a demon could not deceive someone who didn't exist. The cogito, as philosophers refer to it, this idea, I think, therefore I am, this belief can serve as a foundation for other beliefs, just like this kid playing with his Legos. And he also goes on to say that some perceptions are so transparent and at the same time so simple. So he has this idea of clear and distinct ideas that they're sort of just on their face true. There's no way that they could not be true. And one of them, the most basic one for Descartes, is the idea of God. So he realizes that since God is perfect and benevolent, that he could not be deceived by an evil demon in terms of his whole belief system. God wouldn't do that to him. And he says that since God is a perfect being and an infinite being, and he himself is just a finite being, that the idea of God must have been implanted in him by God. And this really is a pretty messy way of arguing, and I'll talk about some criticisms in a couple of slides. He also answers the question how we can know we are not dreaming. He says that memory can never connect up dreams like it does in waking life, and that our different stages of life fit together in a coherent pattern, but dreams don't do that. Also, like, weird stuff goes on in dreams, like you can fly. I fall a lot in my dreams from a very, very tall height, but I never get injured. People might pop in and out or change into different people. These kind of things don't happen in real life, so that's another way we can tell we're not dreaming. Descartes is often considered to be the father of modern philosophy, but contemporary theorists tend to deny that knowledge requires certainty. And so we're back to this idea of fallibilism, saying that we can know some claim, yet not be certain that it is true. And so the problem is that Descartes' standard is so high that almost no beliefs count as knowledge. Here's some criticisms. One is that he is wrong to insert the I. This is called the ego critique. So it might have been more accurate to say something like, there are thoughts. It doesn't presuppose the existence of a unified consciousness having thoughts. And so some people felt that this was quite a leap that he shouldn't have taken. There is a video that sort of explains this a little bit in terms of the Manichaean / Gnostic view of the world and how Catholics rebelled against that idea. So I encourage you to look at that video, and it is in your materials. It's the one that is Descartes' Evil Genius and Ibn Sina's Flying Man. A couple more criticisms. Does he actually engage in systematic doubt? So he believes that the words he uses have meaning. He believes that logic still works, and he still trusts his memory. After the cogito, Descartes relies on two claims: the existence of a benevolent God and whatever we believe clearly and distinctly is true. But the problem is that he relies on clear and distinct ideas to defend his idea that there is a God, and he also uses the idea that there is a benevolent God to explain clear and distinct ideas. And that's arguing in a circle. That's a fallacy. We don't like that in philosophy. And so a lot of people have accused him of begging the question, arguing in a circle. There's even a term called the Cartesian circle, which describes what he's doing here. He may have been influenced by Aristotle, St. Augustine, and Ibn Sina. And a couple of words about Ibn Sina. This guy was just extremely amazing. He was a doctor, he was a philosopher, and a lot of his medical writings were still used up until the time when Descartes was alive. He devised an argument that talked about the soul. And basically, the thought experiment is imagine a man kind of like in a sensory deprivation tank, but just sort of suspended in space, who can't feel or sense his own body, but even though he can't have access to sense perception through his body, he realizes that he is himself. And so the idea is that we are basically immaterial beings. We are basically souls, according to Ibn Sina. I have Avicena there. That's the Romanized version of his name. So if you want to do a project on Ibn Sina, and I hope some people do, you might want to do a search on both of those spellings. It's the same person, but just different spellings of that guy's name. And I do have a short video, as I said, on him. And then, because I love movies, these are some ideas. If you're interested in looking at this idea, and if you have other suggestions, please email me and let me know. But these are the ones that I came up with. And there's one more that I just did actually for my podcast called Existenz, Existen. It's an old movie from 1999, same year The Matrix came out, and it stars Jude Law and one of my favorite actors, Jennifer Jason Leigh. It's by a director named David Cronenberg. And instead of The Matrix in terms of the way reality is presented in that movie, the characters have to decide whether or not they're inside a video game. So kind of interesting, kind of neat to see how much the director had on the ball in terms of predicting certain things, but also looking back on what people thought video games were like in 1999. Anyway, if you check it out, let me know. That's all I've got for this week. I hope this was helpful. Let me know, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye.